Welcome back to Street.
Well, the Dow Jones Industrial Average holding over 12,000, 12,007, a 14-point advance, a tempered gain. We do have a bit of a downturn in the financial names. Citigroup among the major banks reporting earnings today. We'll get to the details on that in just a second as we are in the home stretch. The final and most important hour of the trading day, in fact, beginning right now. Welcome to the closing bell. I am Dylan Radigan. Maria Bartiromo will be along in just a moment's time. Before we hit the markets, we have breaking news, as Becky Quick was just telling you on. Dick Grasso, former chief here at the exchange, a state Supreme Court judge, has ordered the former New York Stock Exchange chief to pay back some of the compensation package that the New York Attorney General, Eliot Spitzer, had labeled as excessive. That is according to a Spitzer spokesman. The lower court judge who issued a partial summary judgment to the markets. For the second straight day, we have seen the Dow eclipse 12,000. Didn't take much. We're only 7 points below it at the close yesterday. Energy stocks among the groups gaining as OPEC makes moves to cut production. However, today's gains are being mitigated by losses in the financial sector. This has been a theme of the week, and some mixed economic data. The September index of leading economic indicators rising less than forecast for the month of September. Also, the latest Philly Fed index contracting. That's a manufacturing measure. First contraction there in 3 years' time. More evidence of economic slowing. As I mentioned, oil higher, compliments of OPEC. You can see we're at 58.50 for a barrel. It comes as Saudi Arabia signaled its support for an OPEC production cut of 1 million barrels a day. OPEC members are meeting today in Doha, Qatar, to work out details on the cut, how they would do it, when they would do it. They will begin November 1st. Maria.
All right, Dylan, thanks so much. And we are seeing some selling pressure in the bank and the brokerage sector today. As you see from this graphic, both the Philadelphia Stock Exchange's Bank Index and the American Stock Exchange's Broker-Dealer Index are in the red at this hour. We've been seeing some money come out of this sector for the last couple of days. This certainly has been the weak sector in terms of the overall market recently. Shares of Citigroup, meanwhile, Bank of America today really leading that group. We'll have more on that and the earnings out from the banking sector coming up. Also in the final hour, the third quarter earnings scorecard. We're looking at the winners and losers so far in the third quarter. Plus, we are finding out if earnings growth is on track or surpassing analysts' expectations. Meanwhile, Google on deck. Web companies today higher ahead of the companies after the bell earnings report. Google is going to be releasing numbers right at 4 o'clock. We are going to be previewing the numbers ahead of that report, and we will have instant analysis for you as soon as the results are out. As you know, we oftentimes see an immediate reaction from investors when those numbers come out. As for the major averages today, we do have oil prices higher, as Dylan told you, and the rest of the market higher as well, even with the move in oil. The Dow Jones Industrial Average holding on to that 12,000 mark, up about 11 points right here. That's a fractional percentage move, but once again, record-setting territory. If we close here, of course, that would be the highest level on the industrial average ever. Check the NASDAQ and technology today. And, of course, as we mentioned, we've got all those tech earnings after the bell. NASDAQ is up a fraction at 2337. On to the S&P 500, the broadest measure of them all. That's actually just turning negative right here. Down about 1/4 point on the S&P, 1365. Last trade there. Our team covering the markets, we've got the New York Stock Exchange, NYMEX, NASDAQ, and the Chicago Merc covered, along with our special guests. First, let's kick it off with Bertha Coombs. She's our eye on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. Bertha.
You know, Maria, we've been sort of on either side of that 12,000 mark today as far as the Dow. The S&P, as you noted, a little bit weaker today because of all that weakness in financials, and that's the big component there. We're at the Altria Post, and Altria today really is providing the biggest impact on the Dow staying positive, up about 12 points of positive move to the upside. The news there, Altria delaying its report next week for a day, and that's fueled more speculation they may finally be ready to spin off Kraft. Coca-Cola up on earnings, and Lehman Brothers ups the telecom services. AT&T coming at a new high today, and 3M will be reporting tomorrow, and it is recovering from a bit of a pullback yesterday. Meantime, in the weakness, Honeywell's earnings were fine. Its fourth quarter outlook was below expectation, although the company did maintain full year guidance, but that's got it trading to the downside and the biggest weight on the Dow today. We've also got McDonald's, which came in fine and has fine expectations, but they had already raised their outlook, so it's a bit of selling on the news. That's weighing things down. And Walmart is an interesting story to watch today. Perhaps a game changer. Walmart saying it is extending its $4 generic drug program to 14 states. Target saying it's going to match it in all of the same markets where it is. It's been good today for the pharmacy benefit managers. They've gotten a boost on that. Drugstore chains, though, have been weighed on this news. Interestingly, a Harris Wall Street Journal poll said 50% of those asked said that they would switch to the big guys like Walmart or Target or Kmart if they came out with that $4 copay. Although Merrill says they don't see it as a huge game changer per se because a lot of the drugstore chains are more convenient. Right now, let's move on over to the NYMEX where Mary is watching OPEC and oil.
Watching and waiting, Bertha. You know, the formal meeting was delayed, and so it gets underway in just about a half an hour. To the NASDAQ and Scott Wapner. Scott?
All right, Mary, thanks so much. I want to start by talking about Dell because Dell's down 6% right now. Gartner was out today saying that Hewlett-Packard has now passed Dell as the leader in global PC shipments. HP now with 16.3% of the market, 16.1% for Dell. What's the problem? Well, you can see it right here on this graphic I've made. Global PC growth, shipments increasing from the third quarter of last year to this for HP at a rate of 15%, while for Dell, only 3.5%. And you see what Lenovo is doing, also outpacing Dell right there. Now, that plays in to Apple because Apple shares are up 6% right now on the back of these strong earnings, beating the street by 11 cents on strong sales of iPods. And as I just mentioned, on computers, 8.7 million iPods in the quarter. That's up 35% from a year ago. 1.6 million computers. That is up 30%. Let's take a look at eBay because those shares are up by more than 6.5% right now. Profits up 10%. Revenues up 31%. The company also, though, giving a cautious outlook for the fourth quarter and for 2007. As Maria mentioned, we do have a lot of tech earnings out today. Let's take a look at a board of some of the issues that are out with their numbers today. We start with Citrix, a disappointing outlook, getting a downgrade by Stifel Nicolaus, by Credit Suisse, and by Robert Baird. You can see the result on the stock right there. And then we do have TradeStation, Juniper Networks, and Checkpoint all in the green today. As Maria, now we wait for Google. And I should mention, as I take a quick look, Google getting a nice pop already, up $6 ahead of that earnings news. Maria?
All right, Scott, thanks so much. Let's find out what bond prices are doing in